This is the now humble Intel Core i5-2400. Once a high-end CPU that any self-respecting gamer would have been proud to have in their system, but 9 years later on and it can now be picked up for a song. But can it still perform in some of today's most popular titles? Does it still have a place as a super budget option in the world of cores and threads? Well, today we're going to find out. I hope you enjoy the video. My name's Andy and this is Andy's Tech. The Intel Core i5-2400 is getting on a bit now. It was released in Q1 of 2011 and that's almost a decade ago. It's a socket 1155 Sandy Bridge processor with 4 cores and 4 threads running at 3.1 GHz with a boost speed of 3.4 GHz. Unlike its brother, the i5-2500K, it can't be overclocked unfortunately, so we're stuck with what we have here today. It has a TDP of 95 watts and has all the modern instruction sets needed to start and run most of today's titles, but it does lack AVX2 unfortunately. Now these can be picked up for around £10 here in the UK, and paired with a cheap H61 motherboard and graphics card could make a cheap option for anyone looking to get into PC gaming, so that's exactly what I've done. And introducing our test system today, we have the i5-2400, an ASUS H61 motherboard paired with 16GB of DDR3, 1333 MHz RAM in dual channel, an ASUS GTX 1650, this is the 4GB GDDR6 variant, and I believe it's a good pairing for a system like this, as anything more powerful would just be an unrealistic pairing in a real world situation. I mean, you're not realistically going to pair this CPU with say a 1660 Ti. It should also allow the i5s to spread its legs and show us what it can do without being held back. Powering our system we have my old CoolerMaster V750 PSU, and all the games tested today will be on my 1TB Crucial SSD. And all this slapped into a lovely ZooStorm case with Celeron bling. I did get this case and the CPU and motherboard from a job lot I brought recently, and if you haven't seen that video I'll leave the link above now. But that's enough foreplay, let's find out how it will fare in some games. And first up we have Fortnite. Running at 1080p competitive settings, which is epic view distance with everything else set to low. It was an okay experience and better than expected to be honest. We achieved an average FPS of 115, but the percentile figures weren't that great, with 1% lows of 30 and 0.1% lows of 4. Now in the i5's defence, these were mainly caused when jumping out the battle bus, but I say mainly though, as getting into heavy fights and battles you could see noticeable stutter, which isn't great for a game like Fortnite, and you would probably just end up getting your ass handed to you by a 7-year-old. The CPU was pegged at 100% usage most of the time, so capping the FPS to 60 would be the best option here, but it is passable I'd say. Next up we have GTA 5. Getting on now but still relevant I feel. It ran fine as to be expected from a 2015 title. We had a 91 FPS average with 1% and 0.1% figures of 61 and 53 respectively, over an hour's gameplay that was. This was at 1080p high settings with all the sliders set to half and all the advanced features turned off. Something like a GTX 750 Ti or GTX 960 would be a great pairing for the 2400 for someone looking to play GTA on a budget, and I would happily recommend this CPU for this game. Red Dead 2. Another Rockstar masterpiece and one of my favourite games, and I'm setting the bar a little higher now. I played through the first few levels at 1080p low settings with high textures, but honestly I was pleasantly surprised as I did think we would struggle here. We had a Red Dead 60 FPS average, damn that was a lame joke, and the percentile figures were good as well at 43 and 33 dead. Shit, I did it again. We had reached the limit though of what the CPU could give us, and that's a trend that's going to continue as we jump into Far Cry 6. But fair play for the 2400 and good effort and definitely playable. Far Cry 6. The latest AAA release of the franchise and will push lower end systems to the limit. I was not a fan of New Dawn, it was well just shite to be honest, but they seem to have redeemed themselves here. But we're here to break the little i5 and it did put up a good fight. At 1080p low, 54 was all we could get though. but I played through a few missions and blew some stuff up. It wasn't great, but I've had a lot worse experiences. I played Far Cry 3 on an AMD A10 APU at 30 FPS 720p and I loved that. Yes, I know we need 60, but I'm happy with somewhere in the middle if I can just play the game, and that's exactly what we got here. Last up, and yes, I just had to test it, CyberPunk. This was like offering the little i5 up for ritual sacrifice. It did start and load the game fine, and when you were on missions and not driving around Night City, you could maybe get away with it, but driving around Night City, it just tanked to the mid-20s. I have completed the game twice as well and I still can't drive, so please ignore my driving in the footage. We did see a 46 FPS average, but it was a bad 46. The i5 just didn't have enough juice to keep up with the demands of the game. And on that note, that kind of brings us to the conclusion and to the end of the video. So can you still game on an i5-2400 in 2022? Well, yes and no. I mean, if you want a cheap system to play GTA 5 or older titles, I mean, crack on, you'll be fine. But it's unfortunately starting to show its age in the newer AAAs. But that said, you can get away with it, to be honest, if you lower your expectations. There's a lot better options out there. The i5-2500K and the i5-3470 can both be picked up for around £5 more than the i5-2400. And both these CPUs will offer significantly better performance over the 2400. But hey, Grandad's still got some moves. So thank you for watching the video, and thank you to my nearly 500 subs. That's honestly amazing, guys. Please leave a comment. I love to hear what you guys have to say as well. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. God bless as always, take care and see you soon.